Everybody, it's Mr. Steinbach back to show you another video on Fusion and how to start drawing and adding dimensions to our solid models. So this time we're going to be dealing with some new isometric shapes that are going to require a certain amount of dimensions, specific dimensions, in order to be the right size. Now it's really important that if you're doing this on your iPad, you have access to a keyboard and a mouse, or else it's going to be very difficult to do this. So you can kind of see the shape that we're doing right here, and this is how we get started. So if you go to your waffle iron and you go into your folder for engineering, I have a folder next to Baby Block Project called Shapes and Materials, and this is where we're going to be doing all of our isometric shapes. So this shape is found in Schoology, and I'm just going to call this isometric shape number 1. So in my Fusion window, I'm going to hit save because I like to do this first, and I'm going to name this isometric shape number 1 and hit save. That way, as I'm building this, I can kind of save as I go. There are many ways to model this object, so the way that I show you is not necessarily the only way to do it. It's going to be a combination of building extrusions and then removing material for extrusions in order to make this shape. Like I said, there's a lot of ways to do this. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to try and do this in as little extrusions as possible. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on Create Sketch. I'm going to click on the XY plane, and I'm going to start by drawing this face. Let's see if I can show you this. This face right here. But I'm going to continue this thing all the way over, and I'm going to draw a combination of both this face and this face as one solid sketch, and then I'm going to extrude it back this way. That's my plan. Then I'm going to remove this whole rectangle of material and then add my circle and cut it out. That's how I'm going to do it, but there's many different ways to do this. So let me hit undo and let's start drawing. So on Fusion, I'm going to close this up so we can see a little bit better. Each one of these squares is 0.25 of an inch, so we need to keep that in mind as we're doing our drawing. So I'm going to start by using the line tool in Fusion, and I'm going to click on the origin, and I'm going to see how wide this thing is. So I'm just actually going to draw. I might actually just start drawing this profile without adding any dimensions first. And again, you can do whatever's easiest for you as you're modeling this shape. But I'm just going to make this nice solid object so you can kind of see how this would work, or this would resemble the front view of this shape. So I'm going to look at the overall width of this shape. So I'm going to count how many cubes we have. So we have, click on here, see if I can draw. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I'm going to keep going. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 cubes. And I know that's 11 because look, it lines up right with that line right there. So if we have 11 cubes, we can either do the math on our own, or what's really cool that Fusion allows us to do, it does some math for us. We can multiply. So I'm going to add a dimension down here. So I'm either going to click on Create and click Dimension, or I can hit the D button on my keyboard. I'm going to click, move my mouse down, click again, and if I don't want to do the math, I can just do this. I can type 11 times, so we need the star button, 0.25, because that's how much each cube resembles. If we did the math, it's 2.75. You can see we got a little funky here. That's okay. It just means that this bottom line got a lot smaller than I drew it as I added a dimension. So I might be able to just kind of click and hold and move that over to keep the resemblance of my shape as I keep drawing. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to figure out how tall my overall cube is. So let's just see. It looks like it is 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes tall. And I don't have to do the math on that one, because it's just 4 times 0.25, which is 1. 1, enter. Now this top right here looks to be 2 cubes. So 2 times 0.25 is 0.5. It looks like if we zoom in, click on here, this goes down 2 cubes, which is 0.5. Okay. It comes over, so now this is where we get a little bit tricky, but if we're looking over here on our isometric paper, we can kind of map out how wide this section is. So it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cubes wide. So let's try and do that. Let's click, dimension 7 times 0.25, enter. So that's 1.75. This is still 2 cubes, 0.5. This right here is going to be 0.5 as well, but I'm not going to dimension this. Look what happens. If I click 0.5, it's going to say adding this dimension will over-constrain the sketch. If this window ever pops up, you're always going to click cancel. The reason that this geometry is giving us an error is because we gave it the length of the width, of 2.75. We dimensioned this to 0.5, this to 1.75. So this has to be 0.5 if this is a continuous shape. So if I put this 0.5 on there, it's going to say this is going to over-constrain the sketch, which means that we're trying to add too many dimensions. Now, what I could do if I wanted to, if I clicked on this dimension and deleted it, I could then dimension this to 0.5, and it would let me, enter, because that means that this plus this dimension equals the overall dimension that we already drew, which was 2.75. So watch this. I'm going to click on Finish Sketch, click on the house, and I'm going to extrude this, and it looks like the overall depth of this object is 5 cubes. So I'm going to do 0.25 times 5 and hit enter. Now, this is not what my isometric shape looks like, but that's okay. We're going to start removing material now. So I'm going to remove this rectangle of material on my shape. So to do that, I'm going to click on Create Sketch. I'm going to put a new sketch on this face, and now what I'm going to do, let's see how that rotated. I'm going to rotate my object. Let's see here. No, that rotated properly. I'm going to spin this thing around to get the proper orientation. I want to be looking at my top view. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a rectangle and have it snap on to this corner. I'm just going to click and drag and hit escape. Or you can right click and hit cancel if your tool is still active. And now I'm going to look at my isometric paper. I'm going to see how big this rectangle should be that I'm going to remove. So it looks like it's 1, 2, 3 cubes this way by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cubes that way. So if I click on D for dimension, dimension this should be 0.75 because it's 3 cubes. And this one should be 1.25 because it's 5 cubes. I'm going to hit finish. I'm going to go home. And I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to extrude this and this. And I'm going to cut all the way down and hit OK. So now that's gone. I'm going to click on Create Sketch. I want to put my hole now on this face, and we have to kind of figure out where this goes. So if we look at the isometric paper, it's kind of hard to see how big this circle actually is. So we're going to guesstimate that this circle is about 2 squares in diameter. Diameter means from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle going through the center. That's how big this thing is. So let's draw this circle, and then let's figure out where it's going to be placed. So I'm going to put my circle somewhere over here. I'm going to click again, hit D for dimension, and I'm going to make this thing, because I said it was 2 cubes, I'm going to make it 0.5 in diameter. Now we have to locate this in 2 different directions in order to keep this circle from kind of moving around. So I'm going to do one direction from this face, from the front face, and I'm going to do one direction from this face right here. So if I look on my isometric paper, it looks like the center of the circle is 1, 2, I'm going to say about 2.5 cubes away. So I'm going to hit D for dimension. I'm going to click on here to here, move my mouse. 2.5 cubes times, each cube is 0.25, is 0.625 in one direction. I'm going to hit D for dimension, and dimension from there to there. And this one, if I look at my isometric paper, is about, I'm going to say is, let's see, I'm going to say 1.5 cubes. Yours might be a little bit different. It's not exact. 1.5 cubes times each cube is 0.25. Hit enter. That is the exact location of my circle. I know that it's locked down because if I hit escape and I click and hold and I try and move it, it doesn't move, which is good. Let's hit finish sketch, click on the house, and we're going to extrude, click on the circle, and I'm going to click and drag it all the way through and hit OK. And this right here is my finish shape. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to hit OK. And now my shape is done. There are many different ways that you can model this, but this is just one of them. Hopefully this helps you get going. Have a wonderful day.